Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Hey, good morning, Crosspointe. Really glad that you've tuned in today. I want to take a few moments up front just to share with you some things that are happening within our community. First, if you're looking to connect with some other Crosspointe people, we're getting ready to launch a few new winter groups that you can join for 5 to 6 weeks online. Leaders from our staff team like Chris Loomis, Jeff Chu, and Kim Barnes will be leading different topical groups and book studies, and it's a great way to get more involved in this community of people. To sign up, you just need to go to crosspointe.org/groups, and you can find links to register for those new groups that are launching, as well as other ongoing weekly groups that we have available. Additionally, we're having a parenting lab event coming up on Tuesday night, January 25th, from 7 p.m. to 8:15, centered around how to talk to your students about sex. So, here's the thing. We believe that our kids need conversations about their bodies, sex, and sexuality to be a part of normal life. But we also recognize that these conversations in the home can often bring up feelings of fear, anxiety, and dread for both the parent and the child. And while that's not unusual, learning to have evolving, lifelong conversations about these issues as our kids grow older, rather than just having the talk, really takes pressure off of you, as well as sends the message to your kids that these topics are important and helps your kid process the values and ideas over time. We also recognize that many of us, if you grew up in a church context, these conversations, while well-intentioned, many times were often handled poorly with a lot of shame and guilt. And so rather than ignore it, we're trying to step into it in a much healthier way and want to try to help one another. And so if this Parenting Lab event interests you, go to crosspointe.org/parenting and you can find out more information there. And then, as we say every week, if you want to help fund what we do together as Crosspointe, how we try to love and serve and lift this collective voice up in the world, you can go to crosspointe.org/contribute. And it's a way that we can all leverage our generosity together to bring more good into the world. Now, there's 2 more announcements that I want to share with you. One, back in mid-December, we shared that we were going to relaunch in-person gatherings for our entire community on Sunday mornings starting February 13th. And at the time, that seemed like the wise and best thing to do. Still, we shared to put it in pencil on your calendar rather than pen, because things could certainly change with the pandemic. And so, while we felt like it was the wise and best decision to make then, we feel like that it's also the wise and best decision now to push that date back 1 month to March 13th. We're still in a rising peak of this Omicron variant of COVID, and hospital beds in our community are getting quickly to capacity. And so, as we continue to strive to love each other and our community well, we feel like this is best. Based on the medical experts in our community that we get advice from, we're hoping this new wave of the virus peaks soon and starts to decline, and it makes the March 13th date a date we can move forward with in confidence. But this is part of our ongoing commitment to consider everyone in our community when we think about all of us gathering back together on Sunday mornings. And with hospital numbers being what they are and our preschoolers still not eligible for vaccines, this is what we feel like best honors that commitment. So I want you to mark it down, March 13th, still in pencil for now, but mark it down. And here's to continuing to keep love as the first priority in what we do. And then second, there's one more thing I want to share with you. This past week marked the 20-year anniversary of Stephen Claybrook joining the leadership team at Crosspointe as our music pastor. Now, Stephen doesn't know that I'm doing this, but I wish we could all be in a room together and we could collectively show Stephen our appreciation, because the thing is, 20 years is a long time, and it's an especially long time in ministry, and it's an even especially rare thing for those 20 years to be in the same church. But since we all can't be together, I'm going to try to express our gratitude on behalf of all of us. Stephen and his wife Cece have been foundational to the health and community of Crosspointe over the last 20 years. Stephen, with his humility and kindness, compassion, and genius music ability, and Cece with her passion for justice, love for people, and welcoming, inclusive spirit. And we've had the great privilege of watching their teenagers, Darby and Henry, grow up here, serve regularly at Crosspointe in countless ways, and make Crosspointe a much more beautiful community of people just by being who they are. The Claybrook family has shown up to love and serve over and over again for 20 years, and their hearts have critically shaped the DNA of who we are collectively at Crosspointe. And it's one of the great treasures in my life to call them dear friends and to serve alongside of them in this community. So this is a moment and an anniversary we want to mark, and we want to celebrate the best we can under the circumstances. So on behalf of the entire Crosspointe community, Stephen and Cece, we'd like to give you a few gifts. One, we're going to arrange a week away for you, Stephen, where you can be alone in a cabin up in the mountains and spend it however you like. You can rest, you can write and create music, you can hike, you can sleep, you can watch concerts on YouTube, you can do whatever you want. You give so much to so many, but we know that you enjoy being refueled in solitude now and then, and so we want to help make that happen for you. Two, Cece, we're going to arrange for you to have an overnight spa retreat at the Umstead Spa and Hotel here in Cary. You can go by yourself, or you can invite someone with you. And for as much as you do to serve others so generously, we just want to celebrate you by giving you some time to get pampered yourself. And then lastly, not surprisingly, a love and passion for music is a huge part of Stephen's life. And so, Stephen, we want to give you the gift of some good music. To know Stephen well is to know that his favorite band on the planet, and the one that has shaped him the most musically, is the band Wilco. So it turns out that Wilco has one concert here in the States this fall. And it's a part of a 3-day outdoor music festival in Martha's Vineyard with other bands like the Avett Brothers and Beck that have also been some big influences of his. And then others like Clem Snide, Sammy Ray and the Friends, and about 25 other different bands. And so, Stephen, we've got tickets for you and a guest to indulge in 3 days of music paradise. And we're going to take care of all your travel and accommodation expenses as well. And so we hope that those things will breathe some life into you and express our collective gratitude for all the life and joy that you help breathe into all of us. We love you. We honor and celebrate who you are. And since we're not in a place where we can all stand up and applaud, may I invite each of us, wherever you are, just to pause for a moment, and may you simply say, thank you, Stephen and Cece and Darby and Henry. Thank you. And Claybrooks, just know that you're loved and that you're valued by all of us.
Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Help my heart to hear your sound. Speak into my life, Lord, speak now. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Clear my mind, oh Lord, clear my mind. Bring me peace that I cannot find. Take my worry thoughts, break my pride. Clear my mind, oh Lord, I made, make me whole. All this life call mine, take control. Wake my soul, oh Lord, wake my soul. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Help my heart to hear your sound. Speak into my life, Lord, speak now. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down. Slow me down, oh Lord, slow me down.
I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping, body and soul held in peace. My heart cries out to you, my God. All that upsets me, you see. All that disturbs me, you understand. Only here in your presence am I fully known. I am wrapped in grace. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping, body and soul held in peace. I try to relax, but anger rattles me. I try to relax, but my failings niggle at me. Be still, be silent. Put your trust in the Lord. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping, body and soul held in peace. In the stillness, the light of your face shines. My heart turns to thankfulness and is glad. I have more than enough. You, Lord, are more than enough. I lie down to sleep, safe and sound. I rest in you, O God. I am in your safekeeping, body and soul held in peace. Be still and rest. You are held in peace.
my Savior. No flower grows unseen. His kindness rains like water on every humble seed. No tender act of mercy escapes his watchful eye. For there is one who loves me. His hand is over mine. In the kingdom of the heavens, no suffering is unknown. Each tear that falls is holy. Each breaking heart a throne. There is a song of beauty in every weeping eye. For there is one who loves me. His heart, it breaks with mine. At the table of our Savior, no mouths will go unfed. His children in the shadows stream in and raise their heads. Oh, give us ears to hear them, and give us eyes to see. For there is one who loves them. I am his hands and feet.
Well, friends, it's almost been 2 years since we all began trying to figure out how to navigate a global pandemic. And I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there's a ton of different feelings out there about this thing that we've all tried to journey through together. Some of us are just exhausted. Others of us are anxious and angry or depressed. Many of us are just fed up. Still others of us we're scared. Some of us are all those things and just mixed together, and it just kind of really depends on the day or the moment. Some of us are filled with so much pent-up energy and new ideas that have birthed during this season, and you're just more than ready to move past all this and get on with life and dreams and return to some normalcy, and you're just kind of itching and raring to go. And then there's others of us that, if we're honest, we're just flat out tired, for judging ourselves for being so tired and anxious all the time. We beat ourselves up because we're like, this is stupid. I shouldn't still be feeling this way. I mean, what do I have to really complain about when there's this or that crisis going on in the world, when this person over there is experiencing this tragedy? And so then we feel guilty for feeling the feelings that we feel. And that in itself is exhausting. And then there's many of us who simply don't know what we're feeling. We know we feel something. We just don't really even have a name for it. And there's a certain type of frustration and weariness that comes with not being able to articulate what is going on inside of us. But here's the thing. I think it's good for us to be reminded that there is no standard for how each of us is supposed to feel right now. I mean, seriously, how is someone supposed to feel nearly 2 years into a global pandemic that we're navigating for the first time? What's someone supposed to feel? There's no standards. There's no norms. There's no playbook. This is all brand new for all of us. And so in light of that, the question I want to wrestle with a bit today is, how are you treating you? And to help us with that, I want us to look at a brief story that we find at the beginning of Mark's account of the life of Jesus. It goes like this, Mark chapter 1, verse 32. It says, that evening after the sun was down, these people that had gathered around, brought the sick and evil afflicted people to Jesus. The whole city lined up at his door. He cured their sick bodies and tormented spirits. And while it was still night, way before dawn, Jesus got up, went out to a secluded spot and prayed. Simon and those with him went looking for him. They found him and said, everybody's looking for you. Jesus said, let's go to the rest of the villages so I can preach there also. This is why I've come. So, a couple observations about this story. Jesus is staying in one of his new disciples' homes, and the word in the village has already gotten out about this new kind of healer, Jesus. And so it says that it felt like the whole city lined up at his door, wanting to get some of Jesus' time. And the text says that Jesus spent the evening healing people. But then early the next morning, Jesus gets up by himself, goes off to a secluded spot somewhere to pray. And the students wake up later on, realize Jesus isn't in the house, and they go off looking for him. And when they find Jesus, they say, Jesus, everybody's looking for you. The implication being, Jesus, there's still people waiting in line that want to see you, that want help. You need to get back to the house or people are going to be upset. Jesus, everybody is looking for you. And then here's the thing that gets me. Look at how Jesus responds to that demand. Let's go to the rest of the villages. It's time to move on. Keep going. This is why I've come. Now, I want to make sure we notice what happens here. There are people wanting something of Jesus, demanding more of Jesus' time, energy, and help. And Jesus says, time to move on. So let's reflect on that for just a few moments. Because as we read various stories in the gospel, this wasn't unusual for Jesus. And yet certainly there were also plenty of guilt trippers around, right? When Jesus made the choice to finally walk away from a crowd or leave a particular village. Certainly he heard clamoring like, come on, Jesus. I mean, I thought you were all about love and caring for people. I guess that was just a lie. I mean, I thought you came to help. You know what? I've waited in line outside the door for 3 hours and now you just leave and go to another village? Don't you have any compassion? What kind of entitled jerk are you? I knew all your talk was too good to be true. I mean, the people you probably did help were probably just people who paid you off and did you some favor. You're just in this for the publicity, aren't you? I mean, think about it. You know there had to be reactions like that. You know people were trying to guilt and shame and manipulate him, whatever they had to do, especially when they had a loved one with them who needed some kind of help. And yet, Jesus doesn't seem to carry with him this sense of, you know what? I have to do it all. I have to say yes to absolutely everyone. But the irony is, many of us carry that kind of guilt around with us all the time. We do think we have to do it all. We do think we have to try and meet everyone's needs. And the result is we can often be pretty harsh to ourselves, pretty unkind and unloving to ourselves, and hold ourselves to a standard that Jesus himself doesn't hold himself to. So can we just all agree that something seems off about that? But the thing is, so many of us have been conditioned to think that when demand gets higher, you should exhaust yourself to do everything you can do to meet that demand. You put in more hours, you add more services, you double down, you do whatever you have to do to try to meet the growing demand. But one of the things I continue to find so compelling about Jesus is that he didn't live his life that way. As full of love and compassion and kindness and generosity that Jesus was, he didn't allow his life to be completely dictated by the demands of others. You see, what we find in this story is that Jesus seems rather grounded in understanding his purpose. He lives with a certain rhythm where he gives of himself, but then he withdraws from all the demands of others. He lets himself get quiet, and in that quiet gets grounded by a deep sense of, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so, even though that there were more people who could have benefited from his attention, he says, let's go to the next village. This is why I've come. And yet many of us find ourselves living our lives in such a way where if people want something from us, that's just what we do. That dictates everything. But again, Jesus doesn't do that. And something else I think is interesting, notice that Jesus doesn't apologize for it. He doesn't try to justify it. But how often do you and I do that? Like if we find ourselves taking a break and someone else notices, there's something in us that immediately wants to try to justify it. Listen, I'm not slacking here. I just worked 10 days nonstop and I just need a few minutes before I jump back in. It's like there's this constant impulse to apologize. Hey, you know what? I'm really sorry for that 5-minute delay in responding to your text question. I just sat down for a moment to eat dinner with the family, but I'm back now. So what do you need from me? There's this impulse to justify and apologize. And yet here we find Jesus being chased after. Hey, Jesus, everyone is looking for you. And yet Jesus has this very grounded, resolved awareness where that demand doesn't determine everything he does. Now, certainly, there were plenty of times when Jesus responded spontaneously and compassionately in a particular moment to a specific person or group of people. We see that. But still, we don't see that dictating how he consistently lived his life. And so here's the thing that you and I have to keep in front of us. If we don't live our lives with a certain rhythm, where we inhale then exhale, where we give and receive, where we work and where we rest, where we speak and when we listen, if we don't let ourselves be grounded by a sense of, here's who I am and what I'm about, we will end up making all of our choices moment to moment based on others' priorities and based on what others say is urgent to them and based on whatever is pulling on us at a particular moment. And one of the things that makes that even more challenging here in 2022 is our constant expectation of availability. You see, culturally speaking, we used to have these built-in times when we were unavailable. When you went for a walk, when you went to a restaurant with your friends or family, when you got in your car, heck, when you even went to the bathroom. There were plenty of times, even just 30 to 40 years ago, when we were unavailable. However, now, through technology, we can easily find ourselves with the compulsive need to respond to everyone else's urgency wherever we are at any point in time. And without realizing it, we can allow other people's crises and urgency to dictate our entire lives and priorities. And we can find ourselves tempted to lose sight of, or frankly, lose any awareness at all of how we want to best utilize our time, of what brings us life, what makes us feel alive. of how we can uniquely live out love and kindness in the world, or simply what God may want to invite us into. And so as we start off in this new year, riding yet another wave of the COVID pandemic, here's a few things I just want to remind us all of. One, allow yourself to get quiet and listen to your body. Listen to yourself. Listen to the still small voice of the divine within you. Some of you, your mind and your body is telling you that you're spent, that you're exhausted. And you keep ignoring it because you think, I shouldn't be. I mean, I've been quarantined in my house for most of the past 2 years. Suck it up. And you have little or no compassion for the amount of anxiety and fear you've carried with you constantly the past 2 years. And so if your body is telling you you need rest, let's figure that out. Ask for help if you need it. Let's find some creative solutions to help get you rest. It's one of the reasons Crosspointe offers all kinds of groups and mentoring programs here, because none of us are wired to do this life completely alone. Perhaps you found a new rhythm during this pandemic that you actually like better than the rhythm you were living previously. Okay. Listen to that. Pay attention to that. Maybe priorities shifted for you in the past couple years and you have a more clear sense of what you want to give your best time and energy to. Great. Listen to that. What's it look like to take a step to more aligning yourself with that purpose? But whatever you do, stop beating the snot out of yourself for feeling how you feel right now. There is no one way that you're supposed to feel. I mean, what is normal got blown to pieces. There is no normal. There is no standards. That all got blown away over the last couple years. So be gentle with yourself. I heard author Rob Bell quote a lyric from a British punk band, Idols, a while back, and it's just stuck with me, and it goes like this. If someone talked to you the way you do to you, I'd put their teeth through. Love yourself. The opening line of the song, so just read that again. If someone talked to you the way you do to you, I'd put their teeth through. Love yourself. Now, that's a rather confrontational way of saying it, but some of us need to be confronted on how we speak to ourselves, on how little grace and compassion we can show ourselves. And we flat out forget that Jesus says to love your neighbor as you love yourself. So listen to that voice deep inside you and love yourself. Here's the second thing. I want to invite you to wrestle with, what kind of things am I actually for? Now, here's why I think that's important in this context. It seems like there's an increasing amount of people who only know how to identify themselves in terms of what they're against. Their resentments, who they hate, who they disagree with. It's as if they only understand themselves in opposition to some other group. I mean, this is true in all sorts of areas, but it's especially true in politics today. Pay attention to the news headlines. Pay attention to your social media feeds. Notice how many times people are primarily railing on, attacking, mocking, denouncing the other side. Whatever that other side is to them. It's an indication that they've lost a sense of grounding in what they're actually for, what they actually care about, what they want to give themselves to. And it's further evidence that their entire sense of self is becoming dictated by others' priorities and behaviors, and that they're so caught up in all the noise that they actually have no vision other than attacking what's in front of them in the moment. And they've lost themselves in the process. Friends, these aren't the kind of voices who we should be taking cues from, because it doesn't come from a grounded place. So rather spend your time wrestling with, what am I actually for? And is that reflected in my life more than what I'm against, by what I post, by what I read, by what I find myself talking about and looking at the most? And then one last thing I want us to be reminded of. This author, Mark, records this specific story about Jesus that we looked at today in the first handful of lines he writes about the entire life, teachings, and ministries of Jesus. And Mark is introducing in these first few lines who Jesus is, what Jesus is about, and he chooses to include it on the first page. On the first page, this story about Jesus not feeling guilty about not being able to meet everyone's needs. He includes a story in these first lines about what Jesus didn't do. About Jesus being incredibly compassionate toward the world around him without neglecting what he personally needed to stay in a healthy, sustainable rhythm and stay focused on what he most wanted to do. The fact that this was included at the beginning of Mark's telling of Jesus' life, I find that incredibly compelling, because if you're painting the story of an unrealistic superhero, they don't need breaks, right? They give, and that's what makes them superheroes. But that's not how Jesus is framed from the very beginning of the narrative, because Jesus is modeling and inviting us into how to best be human, how to have life and have it abundantly in the here and now. And so, friends, I hope as we live out our own stories, that's something that we're going to keep in front of us. That as people seeking to follow and pattern our lives after Jesus, that we won't forget to follow Jesus' example of living in a healthy rhythm. Not living a life consumed only by others' demands and priorities, but rather loving and serving others out of a grounded version of who we trust that we are, and by being gentle and loving to ourselves. Giving ourselves permission to feel how we feel, and to living a life marked much more by what we're actually for. You're loved, Crosspointe. See you next week.
Thank you for joining us today, and welcome home. If you are in need of assistance during this crisis, please reach out at crosspoint.org/help.